Hey everybody, welcome to the Cult Fiction podcast. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're actually going to respond to something that Jerry Seinfeld said that has I think that is important. And we all love movies. We all love to watch movies. And Seinfeld came out just recently in his interview in GQ magazine. He said something topical. He said basically that movies are over, and he's not the only one who is saying this. So what I want to do is I'm gonna read the quote taken out of his interview from GQ magazine. We're gonna go around the table. And we're just gonna talk about um, if we think he's right, and maybe some other thoughts that we might have in relation to what he said. So here's what he said. He said, this is Jerry Seinfeld now. He says, the movie business is over. Film doesn't occupy the pinnacle in the social, cultural hierarchy that it did for most of our lives. When a movie came out, if it was good, we all went to see it. We all discussed it. We quoted lines and scenes we liked. Now we're walking through a fire hose of water just trying to see. And then the magazine interviewer asked him, what do you think has replaced film? And Seinfeld replies, depression, malaise, I would say confusion, disorientation replaced the movie business. Everyone I know in show business every day is going, what's going on? How do you do this? What are we supposed to do now? So this is a guy who is a billionaire in the entertainment industry, right? He's been a successful stand-up comic. He's had successful shows, successful, all kinds of stuff he's done. And so if somebody like that comes out and says movies are over, that's kind of a big deal. Joe, you were just talking about on our board, you were talking about going to see a movie and how expensive it was, not just to buy the tickets, but also the snacks, the popcorn, all the stuff the kids want. Do you think that that's kind of a big deal in why movies are down?
I think it plays a pretty big part. I mean, it's there's no way to pin down one thing or even five things that have helped do to the movie industry what's been done to it. But yeah, man, I mean, we're in California, and to go see a matinee on a Sunday with my daughter and her friend, with it was a matinee. And granted, we got snacks, but we got like a 2-for-1 deal on the candy, and we got the free refills on the ices and the popcorn, and we got a discount because of the membership to the movie theater, which we don't pay for. It's a free membership. It was still $85 for
Right.
3 people, and
That's
that's like,
ridiculous.
That's crazy.
you go to the movies, you want to have a good time, and before anybody says anything about like, oh well, bring your own snacks, eat before you go, all that stuff. Well, then why am I going? Then I'm going to watch the movie at home. If I'm going to bring my own snacks, or I'm going to do this and that to save money, then there's no point in me going to the movie theater. I want to go to the movie theater to enjoy the whole experience. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. And if the experience has become so expensive that you can't enjoy it, then I'm not going to go.
Right.
Like, for example, Monkey Man is out streaming this weekend already. Didn't do well on opening weekend. I'm going to rent it tomorrow for $20. That is more than a movie theater ticket, granted, but I can eat at home. I can turn out the lights. I have a good sized TV in my living room. I got a great sound system. I can have all the snacks I want. I can have all the soda I want. And ultimately, it's only going to cost me the $20 to rent the movie.
So, right. Yeah, and that you can also invite people over, like me. I'd watch it, to check it out, and everybody could chip in or whatever. But I think that a lot more people have sort of home theaters now. Or at least, viewing experiences at home that are better than they used to be. And so movie theaters maybe aren't quite as big of a deal, like the surround sound and the big screen is.
Right. It's like viewing a movie in theater is no longer a unique experience.
Right.
That's right. Technology has made it so, because you remember when we used to go see the movie and a VHS tape, the quality of the VHS tape was so much worse than
right.
big screen TV. I mean, it's just like every time you watched a movie at home, you would be sacrificing so many things that you could not have unless you had gone to the theater.
It's not even just the VHS tape. It's also the tube TVs that we had back then compared to the digital TVs we have now. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, the picture quality was really, really crappy. I wonder if this is right. Kids now that are, late teens or even early 20s, have they never had to wait in line for a movie? I mean, is that something that is That's not done anymore, right? People don't wait in lines for movies anymore.
Neither one of my kids wait in line for a movie at all.
Right.
And half the time, I can tell you this: half the time my daughter goes to a movie, she's going to a movie. She's not going to see the movie. She's going to a movie. Like what's showing at 9 o'clock, that's what I'm going to, because she wants to go hang out with her friends. She could care less about what the film is. Half the time I ask her, how was the movie? It was all right. All she knows is the title of the movie. She couldn't tell you who was in it. She couldn't tell you what it was about. She couldn't tell you any of that stuff. It's just going to the movies.
Interesting. So I mean, is he right? Gus, what do you think? I mean, is he right? Are we looking at the end of the movie business? At least as far as theaters are concerned?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think there's a bunch of stuff going on. There's like societal stuff, right? Like that's one thing, right? Because and like things have evolved. Like people used to not have TVs, right? Going to or people had TVs and it was like, you know, very basic television. Even in the 80s and 90s, TV is really basic. If you watch it again, you're like, whoa, why did I like this shit so much? Right? You're like, it's super basic. Now it's like it's evolved so much, right? And you could sit at home, and that's like what Joe's talking about. Like, you sit at home, you do whatever you want to do. You want to have a drink, have a drink. You want to have some pop, have pop, candy, cookies, whatever. Whatever your deal is, it's all right there. You don't have to worry about anything.
Nobody's talking. Nobody's texting.
Right. Nobody's got their wrappers. They're like,
You can pause it to go to the bathroom.
yeah, that's a big deal, dude. Go and pee.
You know, I think there's those things, but then I think too that like, and as much as I love going to the movies, I like this like an independent movie house here, but they're old. The idea is old.
Right.
Right. And like, I heard these kids, I took this screen printing class a couple weeks ago, and they were young. They were like, I don't think they were 20. Right. So they're right around in that range. Right. And like, they were talking about, I overheard them, and they were talking about Pulp Fiction. Right.
Great movie.
Great movie, right? Like great movie, right? Classic film. Like a classic should be on the classic list. And the one said to the other, have you heard about this movie, Cult Fiction? And she said, oh.
Cult Fiction or Pulp Fiction?
Oh, Pulp Fiction. Sorry, I misspoke. My bad.
Sorry, no, plug away, dude. It's all right.
Name drop.
And the other one, not actually, I try very hard not to have anything to drink before the podcast because sometimes I get too ham. And you guys are the first people I've talked to this long, other than my mother. And like, oh, actually, I went out last night. Scratch that. So anyway,
Pulp Fiction, go.
So, and they were talking about it, and the one said, you know, I saw like a scene of it, and it was sped up to 30 seconds. They were in a diner. So like it was on like TikTok, right? And they sped up the diner scene. She was like, it looked kind of interesting, but I don't think I could sit down for like 2.5 hours or whatever. So something like that. It was really close, right? And so, but like the idea of just going to the movie theater, it's super old, it's super antiquated. And I think that more than content, because they're still good movies, right? And there were shitty movies 50 years ago, and there were shitty movies from the 80s that we can't even remember because they're all gone. But I think just that it's old, right? Even too, like you think about like restaurants. You don't even need to go to a restaurant anymore.
Well, it's true that it's old, but I mean, going to the theater, the whole idea of going to the theater is old. People still go see plays and operas, and then, you know, we've been doing that for hundreds of years. So I mean, just because something old is old doesn't necessarily mean that it's on the way out. I would say, and this is, you know, I used to run a video store. In fact, I think the majority of people on this podcast at some point worked in the video store. And so I got to,
editor. Thank you.
right. Yeah. You worked at Blockbuster. So I got to see firsthand the disintegration of the movie rental business, right? As far as like a physical copy of a movie being rented. I started in 2003, went to like 2010. And during that time is when streaming came online. and it's so much more cost effective, and just if you can sit in your easy chair and rent a movie for the same price that you could go to a store and rent a movie, why would you ever go to the store? Right? There's no reason to go to the store. So, do you
And
think?
people are paying even more for that, though. Like Gus was saying with restaurants, people are paying more for DoorDash because of the convenience of getting it at home.
Right.
They don't care about saving a few bucks. Like I said earlier, I'll pay the $20 to rent a movie at home as opposed to the $14 for the movie ticket, because I'm not paying for everything else and I'm at home.
Right.
Wow.
Right. And if you wait like a month, it's $5 to rent, you know? So I don't know. Do you think, Eric, do you think COVID accelerated this? I mean, do you think that it was like maybe the straw on the camel's back? What do you think?
No, I mean, yes, COVID maybe, but in as far as it dying, in the immortal words of Marissa Tomei from My Cousin Vinny, the defense is wrong. It's not going anywhere.
So you don't think movies are going anywhere?
No, not going anywhere. The issue is that the unspoken problem is that there are a fucking plethora of projects out there that shouldn't be getting made. There are a ton of fucking weak ass writers who are employed for no fucking reason, making dog shit that nobody gives a shit about. And that's the problem. You have Netflix, who like a year or so ago made 800 projects. They're talking about this next year. They're going to whittle it down to like 200 or 300 projects. They're going to be infinitely more fucking profitable by doing that, because no one gives a shit about so many of those projects. You know, they're just wasting money. And the thing is he says, Seinfeld, that is, that, oh, they won't go, they don't, it doesn't hit the lexicon as far as like we don't talk about them, we don't, you know. Dude, tell that to fucking Barbie, Oppenheimer, fucking Maverick. People loved those movies because they were good, though. They knew who their audience was, and they were good. There's too much shit out there. That's the problem. You know, a lot of, and we just don't talk about it because there's this like media apparatus that just protects itself. You know, Variety and all these media publications that protect all these mediocre ass writers who probably should be unemployed, should be doing other shit. I mean, let's be honest. You know, Cat Williams made a lot of hay a few months ago, talking about like this thing that they do in comedy where they put people in dresses, and he was trying to say that it was like almost like an embarrassment ritual that they do, and they put these men in dresses, and people were like, that's what they do. That's what they do. You know what it also could be? That fucking the writers are so unoriginal that all they have is put man in dress, hilarity ensues. That's all they've got. That's a premise for a joke. Put Jason Momoa in a dress. Put The Rock in a dress. Put large, muscular man in dress, because I have nothing else. That's the problem. It's not that they're trying to do some kind of embarrassment ritual. It's that they have nothing else. They're so untalented and unfucking original.
Right.
That's all they got.
More broadly, you're basically saying that quality has come down, right? Like movies are just not as entertaining as they used to be.
We're not giving people what they want. We're fucking shitting on people's IPs. We're pissing off half the country when it comes to just insulting them politically and pissing on their fandom. Like, and then we're like, oh, they're not coming to watch our movies. Why would they? Why, like, oh, please.
Maybe that's what
Seinfeld
means by saying, when he said, you know, we're walking through a fire hose.
Yeah, I thought, yeah, that's pretty much what he meant, was just so much coming out now between all the streaming services and the
Yeah.
theater, and there's so much more movies coming out even in theater, and it's just sort of like, yeah, most of it is crap. And for a long time, the MCU was like gold. It was like printing out every movie that it did was like making really good profit, even with COVID proof and everything, and
Yep.
because it was quality. But now it's
Yep.
like it's starting to falter a bit. The last couple of movies are like, oh, they're not that good, and they're getting they're not capturing the audience as like they used to, and their box office is starting to go down. But yeah, like quality has a lot to do with it, absolutely. And the fire
I
hose
don't
comment
I don't
that is
disagree
just
that
too
quality
much.
has a lot to do with it, but and oversaturation being an issue, but at the same time, you just don't see ads for a lot of these movies. And like, yeah, granted, you brought up Barbie and Oppenheimer, like the two biggest movies of 2023. But aside from that, not a lot of other movies had a lot of legs. Matter of fact, I shit you not, I didn't see one advertisement for the latest Indiana Jones movie. I never saw one. I didn't know it was in theaters until it was out of theaters.
Dial of Destiny, you're talking about?
Yeah. I had no idea it was even in theaters, dude. No clue. I haven't. So with streaming services, you hardly ever see the ads for the movies, which we used to like. Trailers, man, were a big thing for us back in high school, even after high school. And like Instagram is pushing. Instagram and Reddit are both pushing Boy Kills World right now, which is cool. But before a couple weeks ago, when I found the trailer for it, I wouldn't have known anything about it. And Monkey Man that came out a couple weekends ago didn't have a great box office opening, and the only reason I knew about that is because I went to look for new trailers specifically for this podcast. Like me personally, I'm not seeing the advertisement for these movies, which again is in turn not getting the kind of word of mouth the movies used to get. I feel 10 years ago.
I will say this: we can't overlook social media. I do think social media is a problem. We were talking about attention spans. I do feel like it even affects me. I'm almost 45 years old. I get a reel from a buddy, whether it's one of you guys or whatever, and if it's not, if it doesn't hit the fucking joke in 30 seconds, I'm like, why'd you send me this? Why'd you send me this? You better hit me in 15, 20 seconds, dude. Stuff like the second Aquaman movie. I have not watched it yet for like literally 3 reasons. One, I'm not sure it's any good, so that appeals to the like could be shit quality. Right. It doesn't go anywhere because we know what's going on with DC right now, and also I feel like my attention span because of social media has taken a fucking hit, and I'm like, do I have 2 hours and 15 minutes to give to something which might not be good and doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
So social media definitely does play a part in this. In my
yeah, I think you're right.
I want to back up real quick too to my daughter going to the movies. Just a side note to that, I forgot. Her and her friends also don't care if they're late. That's how much they care about the movie. The movie starts at 7:30, 8:30, whatever. We'll be leaving the house when the movie starts to go to a theater 20 minutes away or further away.
Interesting.
Because they just don't care. They're not watching the movie. And you might think, oh, your daughter's gonna go do something else. Like I got her location on my phone. She's not going anywhere. They meet friends, they sit, and they're the kind of people that we hate in theaters. They're probably on their phones and talking and stuff like that, not paying attention to the movies. But that's what I'm seeing with kids. My son, he's a little bit older. He would go to the movies, but he even quit going because they just don't hold his attention anymore. But he would go see the latest whatever. I can't even tell you the last one he went saw, maybe Five Nights at Freddy's. But it's one of those things where take it or leave it. The kids that I'm familiar with, it's whatever. And like Eric said, it has a lot to do with attention spans. I'm not trying to shit on that because mine's terrible too because of social media. But sitting in a dark movie theater for 2 hours with a lull during the plot.
Yeah. Well, if it's affected who didn't grow up with social media, if I can admit that it's affected mine at almost 45 years old.
Sure.
Wow.
Grow up with media. How is it going to affect a 16-year-old who has only had social media. You know,
Right.
How
Yeah,
many,
I
how
mean,
many of us, how many of us second screen while we're watching a movie at home?
true.
mhm.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
See, I do think that there is a technological reality here that is shifting. The simple truth is movie theaters are expensive. Like you have a lot of land that you have to pay rent on. You know, you have to have a lease. A movie theater is a big building, and that means you need to get a lot of people in there, in and out, and they need to buy concessions for you to be able to keep the doors open. And I think about the last few movies that I've been to, and the theaters have been mostly empty. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not elbow to elbow with people anymore when I go see movies. Even when I went and saw Dune 2 in the theater, and it was, you know, it was probably a third full. So I do think that that's changing, just like it did with movie rentals. So, you know, maybe it's going to be a situation where there's going to be fewer movie theaters, fewer screens, and they're only going to show the good stuff. I mean, maybe that's what's going to happen. Does anybody have any predictions on what they think is going to happen with this
Yeah,
stuff?
if we could jump back to your your example of like the actual theater, the theater.
Hmm.
When it started, it was, you know, it was one of those things just like movies were. It was for the aristocrats and stuff like that. You know, people would get dressed up, they would make a whole evening of it, they would go to the theater. Then it became everybody was going to the theater. Shakespeare was everywhere.
Hmm.
Somebody was doing a play somewhere, and anybody could go watch a play on stage for a couple of shillings or whatever. And it became like
Right,
the masses, you know what I mean?
right, right,
And now here we are, you know, in the year 2000, and who goes to the theater now? Not everybody goes to the theater anymore, but it's a very special occasion when you do go. You know, you buy your tickets in advance. People may dress up. They make it a dinner night. They make a whole evening of it again, like a long time ago. Same with movies on the big screen, on the silver screen, so to speak. It was kind of like that when they were first introduced to everybody, and then it became like a masses thing, and it was for a long time, decades and decades and decades. And now we're on that other upswing of the pendulum to where it may turn into the theater, like the actual stage acting theater.
more of an exclusive event,
Yeah.
you know, a night out kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
I think so too. I think that like I saw like when we went, okay, when I go to the movies, I went with you guys. We went and saw Dune, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And this is what I thought. And it's gonna sound funny saying this, but I don't care. Like I'll see people with all of this food, right? They'll have like all of the concessions, right?
Like $50 worth of
And
snacks.
I'll always think to myself, I'll think, damn, like these people are rolling. Like they just no, and it's not even it's not even like class warfare. I'm just like people are rolling. They just dropped that family just dropped like $125
On nachos.
on nachos.
And soda.
Like, and then I mean I'll think that I'm like, damn, you know, and I think Joe's on the right point, right? Where it'll be like a thing. There'll be less theaters. They'll be really, really nice, right? And it'll be like kind of an exclusive thing, a special thing. I think so. I really do. And
I wonder if they'll get more into showing older movies rather than just like whatever's new.
They do that sometimes, like at the Riverbank, the
Yeah.
local theater, but
Yeah, I was thinking about going and seeing Scott Pilgrim versus the World in June, and then I realized how much it was going to cost me, and I realized I have the DVD at home, so I'm not going to do that.
I mean, you think about it when as far as plays are concerned, like you know, at the Gallows Center, whenever they're doing a big to do with some plays, it's not something contemporary. It's like Shakespeare, or it's Death of a Salesman, or it's like, you know, it's something that's been around for a long time. That's a classic that people want to see. So maybe that's what movie theaters will turn into.
Well, I mean, they already
Um,
shifted with the luxury seats too. I mean,
Right,
you look
right.
at the luxury seats when the theaters that were already built that had to remodel for those, they lost 50% of their seating by doing that. So they cut their ticket revenue in half by giving us luxury seats because they wanted to make it a more luxurious experience. So it's kind of already trending in that direction.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
what I hope happens, and I doubt will happen, is like what Eric said with Netflix, where they're just concentrating on making less projects now. And it's like, less is more. You like less products with higher quality. And it's sort of like, Dune came out. The first Dune did okay, financially. But then the sequel came out and it made a whole lot more money.
Right.
Like it made, I think, the same amount in like 1 weekend or 2 weekends that the first one did in the entire run. So it's like quality matters, and people know that it's going to be good, then they'll go to the theater. But if it's just like maybe it's good or maybe not, then you're going to wait the turnaround time between a movie being in the theater and being available on TV in the home. It's just so much shorter than it is now than it was. Because when we were growing up, if you didn't see the movie in the theater, you weren't seeing it for like a year.
Yeah, for real.
It'd be
It
like
was
a
like a long
year before
time.
you saw it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
And
it would be like
So,
the crappy edited version on
right,
TV. Right, right.
But now it's like,
so
okay, I'll wait 30 days or 45 days and then I'll see it at home.
True.
So it's like you have movies, a lot more movies, but less are good. Plus, even if you want to see it, you can see it very, very soon with you're not missing out on anything by not going to the theater. And it's just sort of like, what's the incentive?
Right.
If it's Doom and you know it's going to be good, okay, that's why people were going to the MCU movies.
Right.
But then they started to get a little bit worse and a little bit worse, and now it's kind of like, the movies are not doing as well as they used to.
so you movies, I think Deadpool is going to be kind of a canary in the coal mine for Marvel, right? If this movie should make $400 to $500 million domestic, it really should. If it makes under 300, Disney's in a bad way.
What did Deadpool 2 make?
Over 300 million domestic.
Hmm.
So that's why I'm saying this one should make $400 to $500 million domestic.
And I don't think it will, honestly.
And you can't blame it on COVID. And I don't want to hear stuff costs more. People have been waiting for the suit. People have been waiting for an R-rated, Disney Deadpool. People, there's going to be so many cameos. They are chock full in this movie, full of shit. And so they're giving, people are like, give us what we want. Okay, well, it looks like they're giving you what you want. And if you're not coming, then what's going on is people are like, either, the movie business is hurting, or there's people who are just like, no, fuck you, Disney, fuck you, Marvel. We're pissed at you,
Right.
So under 300 million, they've got a problem, because this should make 400 or 500, maybe, this should be between $400 to $500 million, honestly, is what this movie domestic, just domestic.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what it pulls in. I think you're right. I agree with you. If it doesn't, I think that portends some significant changes in the movie industry as a whole. So, I mean, I got to agree with Seinfeld, kind of. Maybe not completely, but I think he's right in the sense that there has to be a shift away from the old way of that we grew up with, where you're waiting in line to get a movie ticket and you elbow to elbow packed theater. I just don't think that's going to happen anymore. But I would be interested to see, more theaters like the State Theater, where there's older movies that are being played. I don't know. That's my take. We still have to talk about Three Body Problem. Let's get into that. We want to just real quick go around, talk about this. I've seen it, the whole thing. I'm not sure who all is caught up. Eric, I know you haven't watched it. It's not your bag.
I'm finished.
You're finished. Gus, did you get through it? You're done?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. So, all right, well then I'll kick it off. I will say this. All said and done, I didn't really like it. I thought it was a very interesting premise. But I think that it got too much into, and spoiler alert, by the way, everybody, if you haven't seen it, you watch it first. I think it got too much into quantum magic. right? Like it's something that science fiction shows tend to do, where it's like, oh, anything that has to do with quantum stuff, we can just basically turn it into magic. And that's what the two super particles, whatever they're talking about. Come on, give me a break. But I really liked the one scene with the nanofibers, right?
Oh, oh,
Dude, that was
that was pretty intense.
that was the gnarliest shit I have seen. So I would almost recommend that somebody watch the show just for that scene, because it's like nothing I've ever seen. I mean, that was icy. So I at the end of the day, I have to give it a very, very hesitant thumbs down, just because I don't think it resolved well. But at the same time, I can totally get why somebody would really like it, and I almost still want to recommend it. Is that weird? I don't know. Is that weird? Who's
No, I mean,
next?
I'll go.
Alex, go.
I mean, I'm kind of on the same boat as you, but I think ultimately I'd give it just a very
Boat.
hesitant.
Same boat. Not on
Same.
that boat.
No, that one.
Oh yeah. I might give it a hesitant thumbs up, but even then, I mean, very, very, very small. It's like I was watching it and I was interested in what was going on, in the sense that I was like kind of invested in it. I'm like, okay, I
Right.
think there are some ideas in here that I'm kind of enjoying. I want to see how they pay off. I did not really like any of the characters very much. And I mean, I get that for casting purposes, you have to cast certain types of people, but I'm just kind of like, like the best, the most genius physicists in the entire world are like these hot 30-year-olds and everything. And I'm just like, okay,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
But whatever, it's a TV show. What am I going to do? But there are a couple of things that I really like the idea behind it. Again, spoiler alert, I really like the idea of that right now we're technologically superiority, but when we get there, you're going to surpass us. And so
Right.
we have to do something now. That's a really, really cool idea, and I really like it. But then it kind of presents some problems, because they're also like, oh, you're just bugs and you're beneath us.
Right.
And but then it's like, well, we can't just be bugs that are beneath you if we're going to destroy you when you get here.
Right. Right.
And we're like, overcoming all the technological hurdle that took you thousands or hundreds of thousands of years in decades. So, we're not bugs, obviously. So, but those are like kind of minor quibbles overall. I really thought Liam Cunningham killed it as the billionaire investor that wanted to get like
Yeah.
the biggest science in the world.
Yeah.
And so very, very hesitant thumbs up, because I probably would watch the second season, but I think I'll probably do is I'll wait for the show to be finished.
Yeah.
And then I'll watch it. I'm not going to probably do this season to season.
I think you're right. Yeah, I
yeah.
think you're right.
But I'm interested and curious to where it goes and how it ends. But yeah,
Bunch of good ideas. Just not they don't hang together really, really well. Bueller. What do you think?
Bless you, Eric. Yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
I guess it's based on a book. I didn't read the book. It's an old book, and I don't read much, so I don't know. I went into this completely blind. I honestly thought Three Body Problem. I thought it was going to be some kind of murder mystery going into it, and then right away I was like, "What the fuck am I watching?" And if it wasn't for the podcast, I never would have finished it. I never would have got past, I think, episode 3 if it wasn't for the podcast. But again, spoiler alert. Once that first murder happened, I was like, all right, I'm down.
Now you got to see what's going on.
Now I got to see where this is going. But at the same time, and this 100% could be by design. And the more I think about it, the more I think it is. The special effects just feel like they're 10 years old in this show. But I think it's also because when they do a lot of the special effects, they're in, spoiler, the VR world. And the VR world is not supposed to be the real world. So by having these special effects feel like they're behind about a decade, it makes you feel like, okay, you're definitely not in the real world, and you're not supposed to feel like you're in the real world. You're supposed to feel like you're in the VR world. So maybe it's by design, maybe it's not. But I feel like the special effects are just way behind the times on this. But yeah, the microfiber scene was cold as hell. Some of the relationships in it are kind of complicated. I'm neutral on it, because once I force myself to be invested in the season, I really want to see what happens.
Right.
By the time season 2 comes out, I might be like, I'm good. I'm going to pass.
Right. Right. I feel you on that. And you're right about the special effects. They had kind of a Babylon 5 feel, right?
Yeah,
Kind of
100%, dude.
It was weird. Gus, what is your take?
Okay, so like I really liked it, but and there was some like super strong aspects to the flick where I was like, that shit is cool, right? And I got into it right away because when I saw the trailer, I was like, this is stupid. Fucking serial killer killing fucking scientists and eating their eyeballs. What is this shit? And then the first episode, I'm like, holy shit, right? Like I only watched it actually. So I watched the first episode so I could roast it with my hat on. That's what I thought. I forced myself. I had like a couple beers. I'm like, I'm gonna watch this dog shit, and then I'm gonna refuse to watch the rest of it. I'm gonna roast it with my fucking hat on. And I really dug. Like first episode, I was like, whoa, the salty cop. I'm a sucker. I am a sucker for that kind of character. I love it. Right.
I do like a salty cop. It's true.
And like, there was really strong aspects. I liked how, like, the fucking cult worship of the fucking aliens, right? Like fucking that shit was creepy. I'd never seen it in any anything because I like the end of the world shit. I ain't never seen any of that shit. I was like, yeah. And like, and then other things too. Like I was shocked that they nailed the lunacy of the Cultural Revolution. Right? Like I was really, really surprised, especially because China's market, and they like there was a big like an international fucking thing. The Chinese are fucking pissed.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a Chinese book, which is interesting. There's three part book. I don't know if it's written in Chinese. I like skimmed it really quick. My biggest problem with the flick, and I really liked it, but my biggest problem was that like I wish they had read more sci-fi. I wish the writers had read some more sci-fi to like have a little more. And I mean, there's a lot of assumption here, right? Like, who the fuck am I to critique their reading list? But like, there was some things that made it really clunky and shit.
Yeah.
Made it like there was a flat tire, or just air up the fucking tires a little bit. You know, go get a fucking tube.
They could have tightened the screws on a lot of the scenes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that was my biggest thing. And the 400 years deal was really hard. It was really hard for me to be like, okay, so like we move really fast as a species. Technologically speaking, we evolve at light fucking speed. Fair game.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you're this technologically advanced now that you can manipulate everything and see everything and drive people to cut out their fucking eyeballs with space rays.
Right.
Like, what are we going to do in 400 years? That's a huge evolutionary leap, right? Like, so that was hard for me. I wish they'd tinkered with that a little bit. I'm invested. I thought most of the characters were fucking garbage. I liked the G-Man, and I liked the G-Man. He was fucking great. The pirate. What's the pirate's name?
Oh, I forget his name.
I don't even remember any of the characters' names.
I know who you're talking about, though.
Yeah, I thought he was great. I liked a lot of parts of it. I'll watch it again. I kind of want to read the book. I want to read the book a little more.
I feel like the book might be a lot better than the show.
Yeah, because when I walked away, I was kind of like, maybe I'll read the trilogy, because I think what happened is there was a trilogy, and then he released like a prequel and like a fifth book that just kind of added some more stuff. But I think the core story is like a trilogy that came out, and then later he wrote some more stuff. But so I'm kind of curious to read that, because from my understanding, there's a lot that they left out. You know, and there's a lot of characters and events that have been cut from the series just for obvious reasons. So I'm kind of curious to do that, but we'll see what happens.
Maybe we'll read the book and then we'll talk about it again. And since Eric didn't watch the show, we'll let him close out this episode of our podcast with whatever the hell he wants to talk about. Go.
I'm good.
All right. That's it. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time.